Hey guys, this is Ash and you're watching WriterGAsh. So today I wanted to do a book talk on Six of Crows. Six of Crows is one of my favorite series. I read it for the first time right after I started college, so it holds a very special place in my heart. If you watch my book talk on Shadow and Bone, you know I wasn't the biggest fan of those books. I enjoyed the plot, I enjoyed the world, I just wasn't very sold on the story. But I will say, Shadow and Bone gave me so much insight into the Six of Crows world. Some things that never made sense to me actually did. I understood the whole Grisha thing. It made absolute sense. The world fell into place after reading Shadow and Bone. So without further ado, let's get right into the story. In Six of Crows, we are slowly introduced to this band of misfits, and this book and Lee Bardugo really manages to get the audience to love them. Each of them has these intricate backgrounds, and it's just such a beautifully written book. Even Matthias, who in the beginning really got on my nerve because he was extremely bigoted, grew on me. You see the development in him, which is fantastic. It's like someone who isn't aware of a lot of things in the world finally has their eyes open, and it's just realistic. They're all very different people, and it's just beautiful. And Inej and Nina specifically, I love them so much because they're two very different kind of strong women. Inej is the stoic, quiet, badass who knows how to fight, throw knives, is extremely nimble. And Nina, God, I identify with Nina so much. I think I identify with the both of them in different ways. I love Inej because of I can kind of identify with her Suli background. But Nina, I identify with her because she is a more plus size character, and it is not very often we see such badass representation in plus size characters. At the very least, Nina is mid-sized, and that I definitely to see someone who is a little bigger than the average cookie cutter YA protagonist, and to see them be so confident in their own body is just fabulous. When I first read this book, I definitely wasn't in the same mental space with my body image as I am now. I mean, I still struggle with it personally, and there are days where I am not very positive about it. But having someone who is similar, obviously not exactly my body type, but closer to my body type than any other character I had even read about at that point. I have definitely read about more plus size characters since I have grown up, but back then I was 18 and I had no exposure outside of the very niche YA world, and to have her be a badass like she was, I loved it. Not only was she a badass, just she embraced who she was. She never tried to fit the mold. She was a soldier, but that never let her stop. That never stopped her from enjoying the world. She was just a different version of a strong woman, and I loved it. I love that Six of Crows, frankly, the entire Grisha-verse has different types of strong women, and that's just fantastic. We also have Shadow and Bone, spoiler a little bit, but not a lot. We have Zoya, who is such a strong woman, and they're all Genya, Alina even. These are all very different individuals who are, at the end of the day, strong women, but they all have their individual identities, and I think the Grisha-verse and Lee Bardugo do it so well. So to begin with the Six of Crows book, we start off with Kaz getting kind of kidnapped by Jan Vanek, who gives him the mission to kidnap a shoe scientist from the Ice Court. And we learn the Ice Court is in Fierda, which makes a lot, the world makes a lot more sense having read Shadow and Bone. And basically, Fierda is a very Grisha-hating country. They have Druskellas who kidnap and basically put them to trial, kill Grisha at the end of the day. And it is a very cruel, bigoted country. At least the leadership is. And the ice court is said to be impenetrable. It has excellent security. And these teenagers, because I think Wylan is 15 or 16. Inej is 16-ish or 17. They're all 18 or under. These little children, it's just so weird to think of these kids going into such a situation. Another thing that I love about the TV show for aging them up, because it makes sense. Because these are children, it gives them more time to flush out their skills to develop more before they enter these kind of high-risk situations. They need these cumulative experiences to prepare them for something like this, and I think aging them up gives them more time to get those experiences. That's also besides the point. Anyway, so Kaz is this brilliant criminal mastermind, and I loved it. He was not morally gray. He was just a criminal. Yes, he had justifications, but like, he was a criminal in a way, in a not bad way. He wasn't the same manipulative asshole like the Darkling. He had good in him, but he was a criminal at the end of the day. He was a brilliant mastermind who came up with these intricate plans. The whole ice court heist, damn, it was so well written. It is just fantastic. And like, I love how adaptable he is, how resilient he is. Everything that could go wrong during the heist went wrong, and he managed to form another plan. He managed to get it okay, and I love that about him. And then there is sweet little Wylan, whose father is Jan Van Eyck, who is a bastard at the end of it. Oh my god. The fact that he disowned his son just because he couldn't read, this is just... I fucking hate Jan Van Eyck. Wylan is just such a sweet spirit, and he adds a softer side to this group, and I loved seeing that. He kind of rounds out this group. I feel like without him, they wouldn't have the same energy. And I think Inej and Jesper are the two glues of this group, because they connect everyone together. Without Inej and Jesper, honestly, Kaz would be very left out. And Jesper also kind of glues in Wylan, and I love the dynamic between these characters. So Inej was kidnapped as a child from a Suli traveling group, and she was sold into prostitution to Tanta Helene. What I loved, one of my favorite Inej scenes in this book was her kind of standing up to Tanta Helene in the ice court. Like when she comes and confronts Inej, instead of like cowering like she did in the beginning when she's walking by the menagerie and Tanta Helene kind of grabs her, she handles it so much better. That means she's kind of overcoming her trauma. And I loved seeing that change. And the dynamic between her and Kaz really is so interesting. I love that nothing between them is rushed, because both of these people have so much like to process before they can ever think of anything romantic between them. And I love that it was not rushed, that they didn't even kiss in this book. I love that. And God, speaking of Kaz's aversion to touch because of his brother's death, like how he was surrounded by, like he had to use his brother's corpse as a raft to get out of the place where they put all the dead bodies, and how he still struggles to touch, and how he passes out. This absolute criminal mastermind passes out because he had to take off his gloves, the one thing that was protecting him from the outside world. And it's just, Kaz's story hurts me at the same time. Like, it's so beautifully written. Moving on, Jesper. Jesper is, I think, an intrinsically good person who has this epic weakness when it comes to gambling. And like any other addiction, it is a disease. He cannot control his actions. And this whole like addiction causes him to do the one thing I don't think he would ever want to do. He betrays his group because when they're leaving Ketterdam, he mentions to someone who is Pekka Rollins something that he is leaving Ketterdam, even though Kaz specifically tells everyone, don't tell anyone you're leaving Ketterdam. Say you're just going on a mission or on a whatever they call it, because they don't call it mission. I can't remember. Anyway, and he does tell them because he owes them money and they were gonna get it from his father's farm because that's what he put down as a collateral. Anyway, so Jesper tells them, and that leads to them getting ambushed at the what's it called, port, and killing all of them nearly, which is just terrifying. I remember when Inej got hurt. That was the worst experience. And then Kaz called Inej his investment. Buddy, you do not know how to process emotions. Moving on. Then there is Nina. Nina is a Grisha. She's a heartrender. And she has been in Ketterdam for a year because she and Matthias were in Fjerda, and she basically told a group of Kerch traders or merchants that Matthias was a slaver trading her, and that's illegal in Kerch. So they put Matthias in Hellgate, which is their big prison, and Nina does this to protect Matthias and works on trying to get him out of Hellgate for the remainder of the year, and she even like works with Kaz to do it, and she joins the White Rose as she just keeps people company, but it is another brothel. That brings in Matthias. Matthias, who's a Druskel, whose entire purpose in life is to hunt Grisha, kind of forms a friendship and a relationship with Nina before she betrays him by claiming he's a slaver. So he has this re-emerged hatred towards Grisha and Nina, which was really heartbreaking. And he spends like the first part of the book really fighting his desire to be with Nina and his hatred for her, like the conflict between these two feelings. And it's so interesting. And finally, like him learning the truth about why she did what she did, and kind of him kind of developing into someone who is more understanding of the things, who is less blind to what's happening in Fjerda. I loved reading about Nina and Matthias's past. It's just so interesting. Like Nina was on a mission for Ravka when she gets captured by the Druskellas, and when she's getting transported to the ice court, they are hit by a storm, and Nina and Matthias survive, and they work together to survive that. And in the weeks that pass, they become close, and I think they form a friendship and a relationship. And Nina betrays him because there are a group of Grisha who are going to then punish Matthias for his crimes against the Grisha. So in order to protect him, she lies to the Kerch to have him taken to Ketterdam, where she does try to recant, but no one believes her when she does. And then she explains the reason she didn't tell him what was happening then was because she didn't know if she could trust him to not hurt other Grisha. She knew that he wouldn't hurt her, but she didn't believe he truly didn't hate Grisha. And towards the end of this book, he really doesn't. He switches alliance. He fakes an alliance with Jarbrum or something like that, his mentor, and does that and then to protect Nina, and which helps them escape the ice court even. And speaking of Nina taking Jirda Parem, damn, I thought she would be injected with it when she was captive, but didn't expect her to have to take it after they almost got out. And God, that scene where she takes them all down, and how Matthias becomes her humanity in telling her to spare the lives of the Druskella, because they're not bad people, they're just misguided like he once was. It's just, I love seeing them being each other's moral compass in a way, and in different ways. And I think their relationship really worked, and it had the most development overall. Okay, going back to the actual plot of this book. So the plan was that they would go into the ice court as prisoners and escape as partygoers, basically. Because they're going to be watching who goes in, not who comes out. And then the one person you wouldn't expect to fuck up, fucks up. So we also learned, speaking of Kaz's fuck up, we also learned that when Kaz was a kid, he got duped by Pekka Rollins, who is another crime boss in Ketterdam, who basically took all the money his brother and him had when they came into Ketterdam, and also which resulted in ultimately his brother's death. So he basically made a promise to himself that he would make Pekka Rollins pay. So he goes and confronts Pekka Rollins, but what I didn't expect him to do was let Pekka go, help him escape as well, because that was in that moment a smart decision to get his alliance, although we'll talk about that later. And then one of my favorite scenes was Inej scaling the incinerator, because that just shows how skilled she is. I love seeing Inej in her true form as a Suli, and just, it was a fantastic scene in my opinion. And watching Jesper and Wylan work together was also super interesting, like them using their skills and learning about Jesper being a Grisha. Did not expect that. I definitely get it, because Jesper is more skilled with a gun than you would expect anyone to be, because he just never misses, because he can manipulate the metal to hit where he wants. He's a Durast, which totally makes sense for him. Anyway, with as we talked about, Nina helping them escape by taking Jirda Parem, and by taking Jirda Parem, her powers were also amplified, so she was able to tailor Wylan into Kuwei. Speaking of Kuwei, I never really talked about him. When they go to to kidnap the guy who created Jirda Parem, they find out he was already dead long before, and it was his son who was alive. And Matthias and Nina, who had planned on killing the guy, decide that he's a kid, he's one of them, they're gonna save him instead. And that is how they meet Kuwei, and Kuwei escapes the ice court with them. And when they return, so Wylan as Kuwei goes into the exchange, and we find out that Jan Van Eyck never really intended to give Kaz the money, and he was just using him. And when Kaz is like, your son's on the ship, he says, I don't give a shit, basically. And we really see how cruel the man is. He is willing to kill his son so he can get Kuwei and not have to pay Kaz what he said he would. So in the end, it turned, and then like Kaz's master plan kind of unfolds, and it really shows how brilliant he is, because he expected all of this. He expected everything that could go wrong would go wrong, and he had plans. He reveals that Kuwei is is Valen, and that him and Nina were the ones on the ship, and they escaped. But at the end, Inej gets kidnapped because Kaz inadvertently shows Jan Manek that he cares for Inej. And that is where the story kind of leaves off, with our Crows missing Inej and her being Vanek's captive while they try to find a way to help her. And that's what happens in Crooked Kingdom, so stay tuned for that. And I'll see you guys later. Like I said, Six of Crows is such a beautiful book with an amazing ensemble of characters who are just all so different but also relatable. So give this a read if you haven't. And yeah, have a great day.